The rain comes down like Brooklyn's got a grudge. Fat drops hammer the brownstone's windows, streaking the glass until the streetlights outside blur into angry orange smears. Inside, Esther Coleman stands in her own living room like a stranger at her own funeral. 78 years old, 5'3" in her orthopedic shoes, hands that built 3 lives from nothing now grip a walker that's seen better decades. Her eldest son Marcus towers over her in a suit that costs more than her monthly Social Security check. 52 years old, and every inch of him screams Wall Street success. The kind of success that forgets where it came from. He's holding keys, rusty, ancient things that dangle from his manicured fingers like a death sentence. "It's all you're worth now, Ma." His voice is ice wrapped in expensive cologne. "Cabins up in the Adirondacks. You'll love the fresh air." Esther's eyes, still sharp despite the cataracts trying to cloud them, bore into her son's face, looking for the boy she raised, finding only a stranger in a $1,500 suit. Shadow, her German shepherd, presses against her leg. The dog's growl starts low in his chest, vibrating through the silence like distant thunder. He knows. Dogs always know. Lila stands by the fireplace, 48 and wrapped in Chanel. Corporate lawyer, ice queen. Esther's only daughter examines her nails like they're more interesting than her mother's eviction. Those nails cost $80 at a Fifth Avenue salon. Esther knows because she paid for Lila's first manicure 25 years ago, back when a manicure meant you'd made it. Trey slouches near the door, 45 going on broken. Leather jacket that was trendy in 2003. Bass guitar calluses faded to nothing. Her baby boy, now just another washed-up musician who thinks the world owes him a record deal. None of them will look at her. The brownstone still smells like her lavender sachets, like Sunday dinners, like the 1,000 small ways she made this house a home, while working herself to the bone. Marcus drops the keys on the coffee table. They land with a clatter that echoes too loud. "The moving truck comes Thursday," he says. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Esther's mind flashes back. It does that now, pulling her through time like a riptide. She sees herself at 30, pulling double shifts at Mickey's Diner on Flatbush Avenue. Feet screaming, back aching, smile plastered on for the tourists and the regulars. Tips going straight into an envelope, marked Marcus's school. Harvard Business School doesn't pay for itself. She sees herself at 45, signing loan papers with hands that shook from exhaustion. Lila's law firm needed capital. "Just a small investment, Mom. I'll pay you back triple." She sees herself at 58, emptying her retirement fund. Rehab in Connecticut cost $20,000 a month. Trey needed her. Her baby needed her. Every single time. The memory shatters when Marcus slides a document across the table. "Foreclosure notice," he says, like he's discussing the weather. "Bank took the brownstone last week. We settled your debts. You should be grateful." Esther picks up the paper. Her reading glasses hang from a chain around her neck. She doesn't need them to see the number at the bottom. $900. That's what's left of 40 years of savings. "You drained it." Her voice comes out steady, too steady, the kind of steady that comes before an earthquake. "Every account, every investment, everything I worked for." Lila finally speaks. Her voice could freeze vodka. "We had power of attorney, Mother. You signed it yourself when you had that fall last year." The fall, 6 months ago. A dizzy spell in the kitchen. Nothing serious, but enough for them to swoop in with papers and promises. "We just want to help, Mom. Let us handle the finances. You've done enough." Esther's hand tightens on the walker until her knuckles go white. "I gave you my blood." Each word drops like a stone into deep water. "I gave you everything, every dream I had. I killed, so you could live yours." Marcus checks his Rolex. The cabin's got running water. Mostly. Heat works if you know how to work a wood stove. "I worked 3 jobs to put you through school." Esther's voice rises now, cracking at the edges. "I wore shoes with holes in them so you could have new ones. I ate crackers for dinner so you could have steak." "Ancient history," Lila mutters. "I bailed you out. Esther turns to Trey. How many times? 4? 5? Lost count after the third DUI. Trey looks at his feet. And you? Back to Marcus. I co-signed every loan. I believed every promise. You said we were family. This is family, Ma. Marcus's smile could cut glass. This is us making sure you're taken care of. That cabin's paid off, deeds in your name. More than most people get. Shadow's growl deepens. The dog's hackles rise, black fur standing up in a ridge along his spine. Rain hammers harder against the windows. The whole world seems to be trying to break in. Esther looks at each of her children. Really looks. Searching for something she's not sure exists anymore. She finds nothing but greed and impatience. You think you can throw me out like trash, Marcus? Her voice drops low now. Dangerous. I built you. All of you. From nothing. She picks up the rusty keys. And I'll burn you down. Shadow nudges her hand. Warm, solid, real. The only loyal thing left in this room. Esther Coleman clutches those keys like a promise. She will survive this. And when she's done surviving, she'll make damn sure they remember who they betrayed. The Greyhound bus drops them at a crossroads that doesn't deserve a name. Just 2 dirt roads meeting in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by pine trees that look like they're trying to swallow the sky. Esther steps off with Shadow, her walker sinking into mud still soft from yesterday's rain. The bus driver doesn't even wait for her to clear the road before pulling away. Exhaust fumes hang in the mountain air like a bad omen. 3 miles. That's what Marcus said. 3 miles up the old logging road to Raven's Hollow. Might as well be 300. Shadow trots ahead, nose to the ground, tail up. The dog's got energy Esther hasn't felt in years. She follows, one painful step at a time, dragging that walker through ruts and rocks. Her chest tightens. COPD's been eating her lungs for 5 years now. Each breath up here in the thin mountain air feels like sucking through a coffee stirrer. The trees close in, old-growth pines, thick as buildings. Silence so heavy it presses on her eardrums. No cars, no sirens, no life. Just her labored breathing and Shadow's occasional snuffling. An hour later, she sees it. Raven's Hollow isn't a town. It's a graveyard pretending to be one. 4 buildings total. 3 collapsed into themselves like broken accordions. The 4th, her cabin, stands only because it's too stubborn to fall. Sweet Jesus. The words escape her throat in a wheeze. The roof's got more holes than shingles. Windows are just empty frames with jagged glass teeth. The porch sags in the middle like a broken spine. Moss grows up the north wall, thick and green and angry. This isn't a home. It's a death sentence with walls. Shadow bounds up the porch steps anyway. The wood groans, but holds. He scratches at the door, tail wagging, like they've just arrived at the Ritz-Carlton. Esther climbs those 3 steps like she's scaling Everest. Her hands shake. Not from cold. From rage so deep it's become part of her bones. This is where they think I'll die. She says it out loud. Needs to hear it. Needs to make it real. The door opens with a shriek of rusted hinges. Inside smells like rot and animal nests and decades of abandonment. A table sits in the corner, one leg shorter than the others. A pot-bellied stove squats in the center, door hanging open like a screaming mouth. No electricity, no running water, no heat. Just 4 walls, and the absolute certainty that her children wanted her gone. Esther lowers herself onto the table's bench. It holds, barely. She pulls out her inventory. Everything she owns now fits in 2 grocery bags and a worn duffel. $900 in 20s, rolled tight with a rubber band. A week's worth of canned soup and beans. Her medication bottles lined up like soldiers. 10 days of pills. After that, her blood pressure goes unchecked, and her lungs give up the fight. The math is simple and brutal. Shadow's barking cuts through her spiral. He's at the back wall, pawing at the floorboards near the stove. barking that excited bark he gets when he finds a dead rat in the alley. "Not now, boy," Esther's voice cracks. But Shadow won't quit. He digs at a board, claws scraping wood. Something in his urgency pulls her up. She shuffles over, walker squeaking on the filthy floor. The board he's scratching is loose, different from the others, newer nails, less rot. Esther kneels, joints screaming in protest. She works her fingers under the edge and pulls. The board lifts. Underneath, cut into the earth, sits a root cellar she never knew existed. Stone steps lead down into darkness. Cool air rises up, carrying the smell of earth and something else, something preserved. Shadow's already halfway down, disappearing into the black. Esther finds a flashlight in her bag. The batteries are weak, but they'll do. She takes the steps, one at a time, testing each one, waiting for the fall that will end this whole miserable journey. The cellar opens into a room maybe 10 feet square. Shelves line the walls, and on those shelves sit dozens of mason jars, pickles, tomatoes, peaches, green beans, all sealed tight, waiting. In the corner, a toolbox, old but solid. Hammer, nails, saw, wire, everything she'd need to patch this dump back together. And on the lowest shelf, wrapped in oilcloth, a leather journal. Esther picks it up with trembling hands. The leather's worn soft, warm almost. She unwraps it carefully, like it might crumble to dust. The first page stops her heart. Property of J. Coleman, 1953. Her father, dead 30 years now, but his handwriting stares up at her, bold and clear. If you're reading this, you're family, and family needs to know about the springs. Esther's breath catches. She flips pages, scanning her father's notes. Detailed maps, water temperatures, chemical compositions, stories of healing. Hot springs. Natural. Hidden somewhere in these mountains. Shadow appears at her elbow, carrying something in his mouth. He drops it at her feet with a proud snort. A wrench, rusty but usable. The dog sits, tail thumping against stone, looking at her with those brown eyes that say clear as day. "Fix this dump, lady." Despite everything, despite the betrayal and the abandonment and the death sentence of a cabin, despite lungs that barely work and a body that aches in places she didn't know she had. Esther Coleman laughs. It starts as a chuckle, builds to a cackle, echoes off the cellar walls until she's gasping, tears streaming down her face. Shadow tilts his head, confused but supportive. "You're right, boy." Esther wipes her eyes, clutching her father's journal like a lifeline. "Maybe we ain't done yet." She looks up at the ceiling, toward the ruin of a cabin above, toward the children who threw her away, toward the life she's supposed to give up on. Maybe we're just getting started. Shadow wakes her before dawn, nosing her face until she swats him away. The cabin's colder than a morgue, her breath visible in the thin light creeping through the broken windows. 5 more minutes, she groans, every joint in her body staging a protest. But the dog won't quit. He's at the door, whining, scratching, that insistent bark that means business. Esther drags herself up, reaches for her inhaler, takes 2 puffs. Her lungs rattle like coins in a tin can. COPD's worse in the cold, worse in the mountains, worse every damn day. She wraps her father's old coat around her shoulders, grabs the walker, and follows Shadow out into air so cold it burns. The dog's already 50 feet ahead, bounding through snow that came down during the night, 6 inches easy. Her walker sinks with every step, and Esther's breathing hard enough to see stars. "Shadow, I swear to God," she wheezes, but he's not listening. He leads her up a trail she didn't notice yesterday. Narrow, steep, lined with pines that bow under the weight of fresh snow. Her chest tightens, heart hammering, vision starting to blur at the edges. This is it, she thinks. This is how I go, frozen on a mountain following a damn dog. Then she sees the steam. rising through the trees like smoke from a dragon's mouth. Thick white clouds that shouldn't exist in 20-degree weather. Shadow sitting at the edge of a pool, tail wagging, proud as a kid who just aced a test. Esther stumbles forward, dropping to her knees at the water's edge. Hot. The pool's actually hot. Steam rising off the surface in lazy spirals. Rocks around the edge worn smooth by centuries of water flow. She doesn't think, just plunges her hands in. The heat hits like electricity, shoots up her arms, through her shoulders, straight into her spine. Her arthritic knuckles, swollen and twisted for 20 years, suddenly don't hurt. What the hell is this place? She pulls her hands out, examines them in the pale morning light. The swelling's down. Not gone, but better. Better than they've been since the Clinton administration. Esther looks at Shadow. The dog's grinning, tongue lolling, like he just delivered Christmas. She strips off her coat, her shoes, her socks, rolls up her pants and slides her feet into the water. Heaven. Actual heaven. The heat works through her ankles, her calves, into her knees that haven't bent right since she fell in 2019. Her breathing eases. That constant wheeze that's been her soundtrack for 5 years softens, then quiets. She sits there until the sun breaks over the mountains, until her skin prunes, until she can take a full breath without coughing. What the hell is this place? She says again, softer now, wondering. Back at the cabin, she tears through her father's journal with hands that don't shake anymore. Page 47. A crude map showing 5 springs scattered across the property, each one marked with notes in her father's precise handwriting. Spring 1. Arthritis, joint inflammation, circulation. Spring 2. Respiratory ailments, bronchitis, emphysema. Spring 3. Skin conditions, wounds, infections. Each spring with different mineral compositions, different temperatures, different healing properties. He knew, Esther whispers. Daddy knew what was up here. Shadow barks at the door again, round 2. This time the walk's easier. Her joints cooperate. Her lungs pull air without that drowning feeling. The second spring sits in a grove of birch trees, smaller than the first, hotter, steam so thick it's like walking into a cloud. Esther strips to her underclothes and slides in up to her neck. The minerals hit different here, sharper, cleaner. She can taste them in the air, sulfur and salt, and something else, something ancient. Her lungs open, really open, like someone's been standing on her chest for 5 years and finally stepped off. She coughs once, twice, brings up stuff that's been living in there since Bush was president, spits it into the snow. Then breathes. Full, deep, easy. Sweet Jesus, she gasps, and it's half prayer, half shock. That night, by lamplight, she reads deeper into the journal, past the springs, past her father's careful observations, into pages that make her hands start shaking again for entirely different reasons. Page 91. Her father's handwriting changes here. Looser, angrier. Discovered the truth today, Helen confessed. The boy isn't mine. Some musician she met in the city. She swore me to secrecy, said it would destroy the family. I kept my mouth shut for the children's sake. But Trey will never be my blood, and I can't forgive her for making me raise another man's son. Esther reads it 3 times. 4. The words don't change. Trey, her baby, not her husband's biological son. The affair, the lies, 45 years of pretending. Suddenly, everything clicks into place like tumblers in a lock. The way Marcus and Lila always excluded Trey, the snide comments, the favoritism, they knew. Somehow, they'd always known. The gaslighting makes sense now. Years of them making her feel crazy, making her question her own memory, her own judgment. They were protecting their inheritance, their legitimacy. And Trey, poor broken Trey, was just the bastard they had to tolerate until the old lady died. Rage floods through Esther's body, hotter than any spring. Her hands grip the journal so hard the leather creaks. Shadow whines, sensing the shift. They knew. Her voice comes out strangled. They all knew, and they used it against him, against me. She thinks about Marcus's MBA, funded with her blood and sweat. Lila's law firm, built on Esther's sacrifice. And Trey, always the afterthought, always the screw-up, never quite good enough. Because they decided he wasn't real family. Esther stands, straighter than she has in years. Her lungs are clear. Her hands are steady. Something dangerous is building in her chest, and it's not COPD. They'll pay for this, Shadow. The dog's ears perk up. His eyes meet hers, dark and knowing. She walks to the window, looks out at the mountains hiding her father's legacy. 5 springs, each one a miracle, each one worth a fortune. They thought they were throwing me away, she says, but they just gave me the keys to the kingdom. Shadow's tail thumps once against the floor. Agreement. Esther Coleman smiles for the first time in months. It's not a nice smile. Time to get to work, boy. 6 months later, Esther Coleman walks to the springs without a walker. No wheeze, no rattle, just the crunch of her boots on pine needles and Shadow trotting beside her. The cabin doesn't look like a death trap anymore. New roof, courtesy of salvaged tin, Shadow found in an abandoned barn 3 miles east. Windows patched with actual glass from the old general store. Wood stove humming, keeping the place warm enough to work in. She's built something here. Something real. The spring water gets bottled every morning. Mason jars at first, then proper glass bottles she orders from a supplier 2 towns over. Labels printed at the library on their ancient computer. Raven's Cure. Natural spring water. Small batch. Artisanal. The kind of thing Brooklyn hipsters lose their minds over. She drives the pickup truck she bought for $800 cash to health food stores within a 50-mile radius. Tells them she's just a local woman with access to pristine mountain springs. They don't need to know about the healing properties. Not yet. Word spreads anyway. It always does. 3 months in, she's clearing $2,000 a week. 6 months, she's at 5. The money goes into an account under a name that isn't hers. In a bank her children will never find. But money's just the foundation. Revenge requires precision. Late at night, Esther sits at the laptop she bought with her first profits. The screen glow makes her look younger, dangerous. YouTube's teaching her things Brooklyn never did. How to use a VPN, how to access public records, how to send anonymous tips that can't be traced. Ain't too old for this, she mutters, clicking through a tutorial on email forwarding. Marcus's inbox is easier to crack than she expected. His password is his birthday. Amateur hour. She finds everything. Insider trading emails. Bribes disguised as consulting fees. Client accounts he's been skimming for years. One forwarded email to the SEC. Anonymous, untraceable, devastating. 2 weeks later, Marcus's face is all over the financial news. Investigation pending. Assets frozen. That smug smile finally wiped clean. Esther watches the coverage with a cup of spring water, Shadow's head in her lap. 1 down, she says. Lila's harder. Lawyers know how to cover tracks. But everyone makes mistakes, and Esther's got time. She finds a junior partner Lila screwed over. Disgruntled, angry, holding on to evidence of billing fraud that would make the Bar Association very interested. One anonymous tip to a journalist known for takedown pieces. One carefully worded email suggesting they talk to the right people. The audit comes down like a hammer. Lila's firm bleeds clients. Her name, so carefully polished, gets dragged through every legal blog in New York. Esther doesn't even smile this time. Just checks it off her list and moves to number 3. Trey's the easiest and the hardest. Easy because he's sloppy. Hard because some part of her still remembers the baby she thought was hers. She finds his social media, his desperate attempts at a comeback, the band that's always 1 gig away from making it. She also finds the evidence of his relapse, photos from last month, Eyes too bright, weight loss too sudden. She doesn't post it herself. That would be cruel. Instead, she makes sure his bandmates see it. Makes sure the club owners see it. Makes sure everyone who was about to give him one more chance knows exactly what they're dealing with. The band dissolves within a week. Trey's back in his apartment, blocked from her family's money, too proud to ask for help. Esther tells herself she feels nothing. The lie tastes bitter. Shadow's barking interrupts her evening routine. Not his danger bark, his greeting bark. Esther moves to the window, hand instinctively reaching for the baseball bat by the door. A woman stands at the edge of the clearing, mid-40s, black, wearing hiking boots and a veterinary clinic jacket. She's got her hands up, universal sign for, I come in peace. Shadow's tail is wagging, though. That's new. Esther opens the door 6 inches. Lost? Dr. Lena Harris, the woman calls out. I'm a vet in town. Been hearing stories about healing water up here. Thought I'd check if the rumors were true or just mountain folklore. Just water, Esther says. Water that cured Tom Henderson's arthritis in 3 weeks? Water that cleared Mary Chen's psoriasis? Lena takes a step closer. That kind of just water? Shadow pushes past Esther, trots right up to Lena like they're old friends. He nudges her hand, then looks back at Esther. The dog's made his choice. You got migraines, Esther says. Not a question. She can see it in the way Lena squints against the afternoon sundae. Chronic. Since med school, nothing touches them. Esther considers, calculates, decides. Follow the dog. Shadow leads Lena to the 3rd spring, the one Esther's barely tapped, smaller, hotter, hidden in a cluster of rocks that look like natural sculpture. Lena kneels at the edge, tests the temperature. Professional curiosity wars with desperation on her face. How long do I need to soak? 20 minutes, no more. Esther watches from a distance as Lena strips off her boots, rolls up her pants, slides her feet in, watches the exact moment the minerals hit, the way Lena's whole body relaxes, the way her eyes go wide. 30 minutes later, they're sitting on Esther's porch. Lena's migraine is gone for the first time in weeks. I need to test this water, Lena says. Mineral content, pH levels, bacterial analysis. This could be revolutionary. Could be profitable too, Esther adds. Lena looks at her sharp. That why you're hiding up here? Building something? Building something. Tearing something down, Esther shrugs. Depends on how you look at it. Over the next hour, Esther tells her, not everything, but enough. The betrayal, the discovery, the revenge already set in motion. Lena listens without judgment until the end. Don't let hate eat you alive, she finally says. I've seen it. It's cancer. Esther meets her eyes. Hate's just fuel, Doc. I know when to stop feeding the fire. Do you? Shadow barks once. Both women look at him. Yeah, Esther says. Not sure if she's lying. I do. The storm hits on a Thursday in late October, rolling down from Canada with the kind of fury that makes the mountains feel small. Wind screams through the pines. Rain turns to sleet, then snow, then back to rain. The kind of weather that traps you wherever you are and makes you think about every mistake you've ever made. Esther's chopping wood behind the cabin when Shadow goes rigid. His ears flatten. A growl starts low in his chest, building to something primal. She follows his gaze down the trail. 3 figures struggling through the storm. Designer coats soaked through. City shoes slipping on mud and ice. Hair children. No. The word comes out flat. Final. But they keep coming. Marcus in front, 52 years old and looking 60. Lila behind him, perfect hair plastered to her skull. Trey bringing up the rear, hunched against the wind. They reach the porch, and Marcus tries his old smile. It doesn't land. Ma, thank God you're okay. We've been so worried. Esther doesn't move from the woodpile. Shadow positions himself between her and them, hackles raised. Road's washed out, Lila says, voice tight. We can't get back down until this clears. Guess you're stuck then. Esther hefts the axe. Cabin's got one room. Floor's hard. Help yourself. She walks past them into the house, Shadow glued to her side. The storm gets worse. Wind tears at the roof. Snow piles against the windows. Inside, 5 people share space that barely fits 2. Marcus paces. His hand keeps going to his chest, rubbing like something hurts. Lila examines everything. The repaired walls, the new stove, the bottles of Raven's Cure lined up on the shelf. Her lawyer eyes calculating, pricing, claiming. Trey just sits in the corner, looking hollowed out. 45 years old and barely there. You've done well for yourself, Lila finally says. Her tone could cut diamonds. This little operation, very entrepreneurial. Learned from the best, Esther replies. You stole everything I had. Figured I'd start over. We didn't steal. Marcus stops pacing. We managed your assets. There's a difference. Right. Managing. That what we're calling fraud now? The temperature in the room drops 10 degrees. Shadow growls again. Not at the family. At something else. He's staring at the back wall. At the door that leads to the springs. Esther sees it. The way Lila's eyes flick toward that door. The way her hand moves to her jacket pocket. I need air, Lila announces. Even in this storm. Stay inside, Esther commands. But Lila's already moving, slipping through the door before anyone can stop her. Shadow explodes into motion. Barking, clawing at the door, absolute panic in every sound. Esther grabs her coat and follows. The storm's a living thing out here. Wind strong enough to knock her sideways. Snow mixed with rain turning the ground into a skating rink. She finds Lila at the main spring, the pump that feeds the bottling operation. Lila's got a bottle in her hand, pouring something into the intake valve. The hell are you doing? Lila spins. Her face is a mask of cold calculation, ending this fantasy. You're 78 years old with COPD. You belong in a facility where professionals can care for you. You're contaminating the water. I'm helping you see reason. Lila's voice stays level, corporate, like she's explaining a business strategy. Once the health department finds chemicals in your precious springs, they'll shut you down. Then you'll have no choice but to come home. Home, Esther laughs, bitter as the wind. You threw me out, remember? We gave you space to come to your senses. Lila caps the bottle, slips it back in her pocket. The nursing home's already picked out. Nice place. Better than you deserve after this stunt. You think you can break me again? Esther's voice drops low. Dangerous. You think I survived 6 months in these mountains to let you poison my water and lock me away? Shadow's at the pump now, pawing at it, whining. Esther moves fast. Faster than she has in years. Grabs the intake valve, starts disconnecting it before whatever Lila poured can reach the storage tanks. You're done, old lady, Lila hisses. Not even close. They fight. Not physically, but the intent's there. 2 women in a storm, one trying to save everything she's built, the other trying to destroy it. Shadow tips the balance. He grabs Lila's jacket, pulls hard enough to throw her off balance. She goes down in the mud, swearing. Esther gets the valve disconnected. The contaminated water spills harmlessly into the dirt. Back inside, dripping and furious, Esther finds Marcus on the floor, hand to his chest, face gray as the storm outside. Heart condition, Trey mutters. Had it for 2 years. Didn't want anyone knowing. Call an ambulance, Esther snaps. Lines are down, Trey says. Storm took out the cell tower. Esther looks at Marcus, her eldest son, the one who started this whole nightmare. He's gasping, drowning in air that won't cooperate. She could let him suffer, would serve him right. Shadow nudges her hand. Those brown eyes saying something she doesn't want to hear. Damn it. She kneels beside Marcus. The springs. They'll help, but you gotta walk. Can't, Marcus wheezes. You walk or you D. Choose. She and Trey get him up, half carry, half drag him through the storm to the second spring, the one that helped her lungs. They lower him into the water. The heat hits him immediate. His breathing eases. Color returns to his face. It takes 20 minutes. 20 minutes of Esther watching the man who destroyed her life come back from the edge. Why? Marcus finally asks. Why help me? Because I'm not you, she says simply. But while they're at the spring, while Trey's focused on his brother, Esther's phone is recording everything in her pocket. Every word, every admission. Lila's confession about the contamination. Marcus's discussion of the fraud. Trey's knowledge of it all. The storm rages on, thunder shaking the mountains, lightning turning night to day. Inside Esther, a different storm brews, mercy and rage fighting for control. Shadow sits beside her, solid and real, her anchor in all this chaos. Almost there, boy, she whispers. Almost done. The storm breaks by Saturday morning. Weak sunlight filters through clouds still heavy with threat. The mountain exhales, dripping and exhausted. Esther's children are trapped another day. Roads still impassable. Cell service still dead. Perfect. She waits until they're all in the main room. Marcus recovered enough to sit up. Lila pacing like a caged animal. Trey staring at nothing. Then Esther clutches her chest and drops. The fall's calculated. She's practiced it 3 times in her head. Enough drama to sell it, not enough force to actually hurt. She hits the floor hard, gasps, lets her eyes roll back. Shadow, who's in on this, starts barking. Frantic, convincing. Ma! Marcus scrambles over. Ma, can you hear me? Esther stays limp, mouth open, breathing shallow. Finally, Lila mutters. Not quiet enough. About damn time. Lila. Trey's voice cracks. What? We're all thinking it. Lila crouches beside Esther's body, checks for a pulse with clinical detachment. She's alive. Barely. Won't last the night, though. Marcus sits back on his heels. We need to call someone. Lines are down. Genius. Lila stands, already moving to the window. By the time help arrives, she'll be gone. Natural causes. Stress of living alone. Tragic. Esther keeps her breathing steady, forces herself not to react. We can finally sell this place, Lila continues, voice picking up speed. Excitement. The springs alone are worth millions. Pharmaceutical companies would kill for this water. We split it 3 ways. Walk away clean. That's cold, Trey says. That's business. Lila's already pulling out a notepad, making plans. Marcus, you handle the real estate side. I'll manage the legal paperwork. Trey, you just stay out of the way. From her position on the floor, Esther can see the tiny red light blinking in the corner. The camera Lena helped her install 2 weeks ago, disguised as a smoke detector, recording everything. She lets them talk for another 10 minutes, lets them plan their fortune, their future built on her grave. Then she opens her eyes and sits up. Surprise. The silence is beautiful. Marcus goes white. Lila actually stumbles backward. Trey just stares, mouth open. You're alive, Marcus stammers. Very. Esther stands, stretches like she just woke from a nap. And you're done. Shadow trots over, tail wagging. Good boy. That was a test. Lila recovers fast. Always does. We were just upset. We didn't mean... Save it. Esther points to the smoke detector. Got every word. Every plan to cash in on my death. Every admission that you've been waiting for me to die. The color drains from all 3 faces. That's illegal, Lila hisses. Recording without consent. One-party consent state, counselor. Did your fancy law degree skip that part? Esther smiles. I consented. That's all that matters. Shadow's barking again. Different this time. His found something bark. He's at the cellar door, scratching, whining. Esther follows him down. The stairs are easier now than they were 8 months ago. Her lungs work. Her joints cooperate. Shadows dug up something in the far corner, behind the shelves, behind the preserved food. A metal box, rusted, locked. It takes Esther 5 minutes with a crowbar to pop it open. Inside, paperwork, bank statements, transfer receipts, all bearing her forged signature. Dates going back 5 years. Small transfers at first. 500 here, 1,000 there, building to the big ones. 10,000, 20, 50. Every cent documented, every theft recorded. Her father must have suspected, must have investigated, hidden the evidence before he died. Esther clutches the papers like they're made of gold. Got you, she whispers. That afternoon, a man arrives on foot, hiking boots, government issue jacket, face that's seen too many bad decisions. Mrs. Coleman, I'm Robert Chen, Marcus's former business partner. He doesn't offer to shake hands. Your message said you had information. You're the whistleblower. Esther ushers him inside. The one who tried to report Marcus 3 years ago. Tried being the key word. He buried it. Buried me. Robert's voice is bitter. Cost me my career, my reputation, everything. Want it back? She shows him everything. The recordings, the bank records, the paper trail of a decade of theft and fraud. Robert's hands shake as he flips through the pages. This is enough. More than enough. The feds will cruciate them. That's the idea. He leaves with copies of everything. Promises to have FBI agents here by Monday. Esther watches him disappear down the trail, then pours herself a glass of spring water. Shadow sits beside her, head tilted. Here's to screwing them over, boy. She raises her glass. Shadow barks once. Agreement. But that night, alone in the cabin with her children banished to the old general store down the road, Esther sits by the window and cries. Quiet tears, the kind that come from somewhere deeper than anger. She mourns the family she thought she had, the children she raised, the life she built that turned out to be made of lies. Lena finds her there at midnight, lets herself in through the back door. Saw your light on, the vet says softly. Thought you might need company. They're going to prison, Esther says. All of them. Because of me. Because of them. Lena sits beside her. You didn't make them steal. Didn't make them abandon you. They did that themselves. I could stop it. Could let it go. Forgive them. Could you really? Esther thinks about Marcus's sneer. Lila's cold calculation. The years of being made to feel worthless. No, she admits. I couldn't. Then stop torturing yourself. Lena's voice is gentle but firm. Forgiveness is for your peace, not theirs. But sometimes peace comes from justice. Peace comes when they're on their knees, Esther corrects. When they feel what I felt. Lost. Broken. Alone. Lena doesn't argue, just sits with her as the night deepens. Shadow curls at Esther's feet, warm and solid and loyal. Outside, the mountains hold their secrets. The springs bubble eternal. And somewhere down in the city, the wheels of justice are starting to turn. The town hall in Ravens Hollow hasn't seen this many people in 40 years. Every folding chair is occupied. People stand 3 deep along the walls. More crowd the doorway, craning to see inside. Word spreads fast in small towns, especially when the FBI shows up asking questions. Esther arrives last, and she arrives like she means it. Red coat, bright as blood, bright as victory. Her hair's done, silver and proud. Lipstick that matches the coat. Shadow walks beside her, no leash needed. The dog's head is high, alert, ready. She's 78 years old, and she owns this room. Marcus sits in the front row, flanked by federal agents. His Wall Street suit looks expensive and useless. Lila's beside him, lawyer to the end, but her hands won't stop shaking. Trey's slumped in the third row, already defeated. The whole town's here. Tom Henderson, whose arthritis disappeared after 3 weeks of spring water. Mary Chen, whose skin cleared for the first time in 20 years. Dozens more who found healing in those hidden pools. They know who saved them, and they know who tried to take it away. Esther walks to the front of the room. Her boots click on the old wooden floor. Each step echoes like a gavel. She doesn't need a microphone. Never has. Most of you know me now, she starts. Voice steady, strong. But 8 months ago, I was just an old woman my children threw away like garbage. The room goes silent. Even the breathing seems to stop. They stole my savings, forged my signature, drained accounts I spent 40 years filling. She looks directly at Marcus. They gave me rusty keys to a death trap and $900 and told me I was worth nothing. Marcus won't meet her eyes, but they made a mistake. Esther's smile could cut steel. They threw me away on land my father left me. Land hiding something they couldn't see. Something worth more than their greed could count. She nods to Lila, who's operating the projector in the corner. The wall lights up. Bank statements, transfer receipts, all bearing Esther's forged signature. The crowd murmurs. Numbers don't lie. $247,000, Esther says. Stolen over 5 years. Little bits at first, then bigger chunks. They thought I wouldn't notice. Thought I was too old, too sick, too stupid. The next slide shows Marcus's insider trading emails. Then Lila's billing fraud. Then documentation of every lie they've told. And when I survived? Esther's voice rises. When I didn't die in that cabin like they planned, they came back. Tried to poison my water. Tried to force me into a nursing home so they could sell what I'd built. The recording plays. Lila's voice, cold and clear. You're done, old lady. Then Marcus discussing selling the springs to pharmaceutical companies. Then all three of them, standing over what they thought was Esther's dying body, planning their fortunes. The crowd's murmur turns angry. These are mountain people. They understand betrayal. They understand greed. Trey stands suddenly. His chair scrapes loud across the floor. Ma, please. His voice breaks. We're family. The room waits for her response. Esther looks at him. This boy she raised. This man who isn't her blood but might as well be for all the years she gave him. Family don't steal your soul, Trey. Each word lands like a hammer. Family don't watch you suffer and smile while they count the money. Family don't throw you away when you stop being useful. We were wrong, Trey tries again. But we can fix this. You can shut your mouth and sit down. He sits. Esther turns back to the crowd. The Ravens Hollow Springs are now owned by a non-profit foundation. Every penny they earn goes to helping people who've been thrown away like I was. Elders with nowhere to go. Folks whose families decided they weren't worth keeping. Lena steps forward. The Ravens Hollow Foundation is registered as of yesterday. Esther Coleman as founder. I'm listed as director. The springs can never be sold, never be exploited. They belong to the people who need them. Marcus surges to his feet. You can't do this. We're your children. We have rights. You have handcuffs. Esther's smile is terrible and beautiful, and a federal indictment. Wire fraud, elder abuse, embezzlement. The agents can explain it better than me. The FBI agents stand. One moves toward Marcus, another toward Lila. This is insane! Lila's lawyer voice cracks at the edges. We're your family. You can't just... You're no blood of mine. Esther's voice cuts through everything. Not anymore. Not after this. You wanted me dead. You get to live knowing I beat you instead. Shadow growls. Low and deep. A sound that says back off and mean it. The agents start reading rights. Marcus is crying now, that polished Wall Street mask finally shattered. Lila's silent, staring at nothing. Trey just looks small. The crowd erupts, not in shock, in applause. These people know what it means to survive. They know what it costs to stand up. And they're watching a 78-year-old woman do what most of them only dream about. Tom Henderson starts it. Esther Coleman! He's on his feet, clapping so hard his hands must hurt. Mary Chen joins in, then the others, one by one, then all at once. The whole room standing, cheering, for her. Esther stands in the center of it all, red coat bright against the old wood walls, shadow pressed against her leg, Lena beside her. Her children are let out in handcuffs. Marcus is still crying. Lila's face is stone. Trey looks back once, mouth open like he wants to say something. Esther doesn't look away, doesn't flinch. This is victory. It tastes like ash and triumph mixed together. She's won, demolished them, taken everything they thought they'd steal and turned it into something they can never touch. But the applause can't fill the hollow in her chest where her family used to be. Shadow whines softly, nudges her hand. I know, boy, she whispers under the crowd noise. I know. She's stronger than she's ever been, healthier, richer, respected, and completely, utterly alone except for a dog and a veterinarian who believed in her. The crowd keeps cheering. Esther Coleman stands tall and lets them. Because sometimes winning costs everything. And sometimes it's still worth it. Spring comes to Raven's Hollow like a promise kept. Snow melts into streams that feed the springs. Pine trees shake off winter and reach for skies so blue it hurts to look at. 6 months since the trial. 6 months since Esther Coleman became the woman who beat her own children at their own game. The cabin's not a cabin anymore. It's the heart of something bigger. 3 new buildings stand where the old general store used to rot. Simple structures, built with local timber and a lot of determined hands. Sleeping quarters for 20. A communal kitchen, a bottling facility that runs clean and legal. The Raven's Hollow Foundation, a sanctuary for people society threw away. Esther stands on the main porch, watching her kingdom wake up. 79 now, gray hair caught up in a bun, jeans and a flannel shirt, boots that have seen real work. She looks 20 years younger than the woman who arrived here, broken and betrayed. Martha Washington, 82, comes out stretching. Former teacher, lost her pension in a scam. Daughter wouldn't help. Now she's here, soaking in the springs daily, teaching literacy to the others. Behind her, James Liu, 76, worked construction for 50 years. Body gave out. Kids moved to California and stopped calling. The arthritis spring gave him his hands back. Now he builds furniture for the sanctuary. 15 elders total, all with stories like Esther's, all thrown away, all healing. Coffee's on, Martha calls, and I made those biscuits you like. Inside the kitchen, life hums. Conversation, laughter, the sound of people who found family after their real families failed them. Esther sips her coffee and watches them. Her people, her real family now. Shadows outside training the new puppy. Jet, 8 weeks old, German Shepherd with the same markings as Shadow, same intelligent eyes, same knowing look that says this dog understands more than dogs should. Lena found him at a shelter, 3 counties over, brought him up here saying only, he picked you, wouldn't stop whining when I tried to leave without him. Shadow's teaching Jet the trails, where the springs are, how to sense when someone's in trouble. The old dog's slowing down, but he's got lessons to pass on first. Esther watches them through the window. Shadow nudging Jet toward a scent. Jet bouncing around, puppy clumsy but learning fast. Legacy looks like a lot of things. Sometimes it looks like an old dog teaching a young one how to save people. The bottling facility runs 5 days a week now. Raven's Cure sells in health stores across 3 states. Every penny goes back into the foundation. Free stays for elders who need healing, food, medicine, a place to belong. Esther teaches them the process herself. How to filter, how to bottle, how to label. Her hands, once twisted with arthritis, move quick and sure. Remember, she tells James as he seals a batch, Every bottle's got a story. Someone's healing, someone's hope. Don't rush it. He nods, understanding. Everyone here understands. They've all been hopeless. The news plays on the TV in the corner, local station covering the sentencing. Marcus Coleman, 53, sentenced to 8 years federal prison for wire fraud and elder abuse. His brokerage dissolved, his reputation destroyed. Lila Coleman, 49, disbarred permanently. 3 years in federal prison, her law firm dissolved in scandal. Trey Coleman, 46, sentenced to 18 months, suspended pending completion of court, ordered rehabilitation. Esther doesn't change the channel, doesn't turn it off, just watches with eyes that have seen everything and survived anyway. "You okay?" Lena asks softly. "Yeah, and she means it. I'm okay. The pain's still there. Will probably always be there, but it's not the sharp bleeding thing it used to be, more like an old scar. Proof she survived." That afternoon, Esther drives the old pickup to the cemetery on the mountain's west side. Small place, 20 graves, maybe. Most from before 1960. Her father's headstone sits under a pine tree. Simple granite. J. Coleman, 19201995. Beloved father. Esther kneels, joints cooperating. The springs keep her mobile. Keep her strong. "I made it, Daddy." Her voice is quiet, private. "Used what you left me. Built something that matters. Something they can't take away." The wind moves through the pines. Sounds almost like an answer. "I know you knew about Trey. About the affair. About all of it." She traces her father's name with one finger. "But you loved me anyway. Left me the tools to survive when they turned on me." Jet bounds up, all puppy energy and wet nose. He sits beside her, presses against her leg. Shadows close behind, moving slower but steady. Both dogs look out at the view. Mountains rolling away forever. Springs hidden in the valleys. A kingdom built on healing and second chances. "They thought they broke me," Esther says. Not to her father, not to the dogs. To herself, maybe. To the universe. To every person who's ever been thrown away and told they're worthless. "But I built a kingdom instead." Shadow leans against her other side. Jet on the left. Shadow on the right. 2 generations of loyalty. The sun's starting to set, painting the mountains orange and gold and purple. The kind of sunset that makes you believe in something bigger than yourself. Esther stands. Her back doesn't hurt. Her lungs pull deep, clean breaths. Her hands are steady. She's 79 years old, betrayed by her own blood, left for dead on a mountain. And she won. Not just survived, won. Built something beautiful from the ashes of what they tried to destroy. The drive back to Raven's Hollow takes 15 minutes. The sanctuary lights glow warm against the gathering dark. Smoke rises from the chimneys. People move behind the windows. Her people, her family. Shadow and Jet race ahead, eager to be home. Esther follows at her own pace. No rush. She's got time now. Got years, probably, if the springs keep doing their work. She parks the truck, steps out into air that smells like pine and possibility. Inside, Martha's made dinner. The table's crowded. 20 people who belong together not because of blood, but because of choice. Esther takes her seat. Shadow under the table. Jet trying to fit under there too, all gangly puppy legs. Someone starts telling a story. Someone else laughs. Plates pass. Voices overlap. This is what family should sound like. Esther Coleman smiles, takes a sip of spring water, thinks about everything she lost and everything she built, and knows bone deep that she'd do it all again. They thought they broke her, but she built a kingdom, and kingdoms last forever. If you've ever been betrayed by the people who should have protected you, if you've ever had to rebuild from nothing, if you've ever wondered if you're strong enough to survive what breaks you, remember Esther Coleman. Remember that 78 is not too old to start over. Remember that the people who throw you away don't get to write your ending. You do. What will you build from your ashes?